I feel like if we had rules that showed an eye for an eye is going to happen if you are responsible for a hideous crime, perhaps people would think twice. If
Welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. We are in April, and I think we botched it. We did not cover two important things this past week that need some of our love and attention because
it takes one to have the other.
And it takes one to have anything. Let's go back. April 20th is National Marijuana Day, which a lot of people make a big deal of. We totally missed it. But if you were able to enjoy it, hopefully you remember it.
Exactly.
And I'm very sad that I missed Earth Day, which was 4/22. So if you have yet to give this beautiful Mother Earth a hug or some love, we're going to do that in retrospect of missing it.
Usually you see all the pictures that everybody posts. I must have been off my phone that day because I didn't see it.
A little more present.
Normally I would participate and show some of my fabulous worldly photos.
We were obsessed with Artemis and the big blue marble, and we did get that in our previous episode. Okay. Maybe that's why we thought we were channeling it, but we're going to give homage to those two dates that happened last week, and that's going to bring us into this week's top three.
You can also guess when we were participating with 420, one of our recent episodes.
I don't know about that. But anyway, back to the top three of this week.
Number 3, barely fraud. Deer in the headlights. Insurance fraud goes wild.
These three jokers, they couldn't have been more stupid. They actually sent in video of them maiming a Rolls Royce in a bear suit. 3 guys clawing up the innards of this Rolls Royce.
3 separate bears?
Well, there was one guy, another guy videoing it. The 3 jokers from California. They did multiple times. $150,000 in damage amongst the Rolls Royce and 2 Mercedes.
Did they really terrorize the cars?
They terrorized the cars and videoed it and sent it in as evidence.
So dumb.
They pretended that they caught the bear in the Rolls Royce.
Okay, they must have been participating in 420. They were definitely high. That is crazy.
Insurance fraud affects us all.
Well, it does because it jacks up prices. That is
ridiculous.
Totally. Number 2. Christie's raffles off a Picasso worth $1.2 million for a $100 entry fee. And it was a win for everyone.
Ari Hodara won this in Paris, and he thought it was a hoax initially because he thought, are they really giving away or auctioning off for 100?
Like an authenticated Picasso?
Yes, of the muse of Picasso. And it aligned with the mission of what Picasso stood for and was going to Alzheimer's research. It's great when something gets worldly involvement, and they raised all this money. They were able to pay for the Picasso from the auction house and also give this to an amateur Picasso lover. And the charity gets a whole bunch of money.
Initially, I was concerned that if somebody won it in a raffle and didn't know how to take care of it correctly, but if Christie's is running it, then you have art on the brain.
And also, if you're not a lover of Picasso, then you sell it for a whole bunch of money. And
1.2 million to be exact. Everyone wins.
Everybody wins.
And number 1, I love this. Finally, the Sacklers got sacked by the Justice Department regarding the opioid and oxy addiction crises that this family created.
This was a plea deal from 2020 and is still evolving, in addition to the fact that they're getting sacked for $7 billion. And unfortunately, Purdue Pharma is admitting some form of guilt. They didn't take full ownership. The Sacklers have never, ever admitted guilt, even though they've also been sued. And they're allowing some of these victims, and there are thousands, if not millions of victims, to have their day in court and talk about how devastating this drug was and how they knowingly took advantage of people's pain.
What a disgusting family. I watched that documentary and it was repulsive. I wouldn't show my face in public if I was a Sackler. They knew exactly what they were doing. And if you could tally up how many lives, not only lost, but have been affected and devastated, you can't put a number on that.
And if you haven't seen Dope Sick or Painkiller was the one with Matthew Broderick I was completely obsessed with. It takes you through the whole knowing when things are too good to be true. they usually are. And we talk about all the time on this show, be careful about popping a pill to fix your problem. If you're someone who is in pain, I always tried to stay off opioids when I had 4 C-sections. Wasn't easy, but we do have Tylenol and Advil. So try and not take a magic pill.
And mental illness and pills go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So when people start popping meds and smoking pot to try to balance out whatever's going on that hasn't been diagnosed correctly, it can get out of control. And it can lead to retaliation and hideous eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth situations that we are going to discuss today.
It's a tale as old as time, literally, and it is something that we have to curb as human beings. It's very easy to have vengeance and revenge when we're wronged. And the reason this idea came to our forefront was there are so many things we hear nowadays on the news, things that happen in New York City, really all over the globe. You think, my gosh, if we had a more strict legal system, or if we had more strict penalties, maybe these things wouldn't happen as much.
And people wouldn't just sit and watch somebody getting mauled or stabbed. We've had a lot of very scary incidences recently with people getting accosted on the subway in New York. And I've got a child that relies heavily on the subway, as do her roommates and a lot of her friends. And people are scared to get involved. There's different mentalities. Revenge, if somebody does something to you, you want to, give it right back to them. But then there's also the people that are a little too scared of what the repercussion could be if they did get involved. Could they get stabbed? Could they get prosecuted or arrested? So it's a very slippery slope, and it has a lot to do with your personal belief system. And we can kind of debate this today because I don't know that Jen and I see eye to eye on all of this. I did something recently that might be offensive. I don't look at this as offensive, but unfortunately, my algorithm on Instagram is showing me terrible stories of people getting pushed in front of the subways and getting slaughtered by a whack job that has a machete on a subway, and it's showing me girls that have been killed in sex crimes and rapes. And I just had my load that day. I read a story about a girl in South Africa driving at night with a friend and was carjacked by a gang, 4 guys to be exact. And she was very pretty. They beat the head in of her friend that was traveling with her, who was a guy, and left him for dead. She was gang raped multiple times. And on top of being gang raped, when they were done with her, they crushed her skull. So after seeing several stories similar to this throughout my browsing, I decided to respond that those guys should be raped with a tire iron and also have their heads crushed. And I got my hand slapped by Instagram and wasn't allowed to comment for 72 hours because I broke the rules. So I went back in and challenged this because it's freedom of speech. And I was only saying that they should have done unto them what they did to the victim who did not live. And I still was penalized.
Sure. If we're going to stay on that for a second, this is where I would applaud the platform of trying to de-escalate negative commentary, because although I know who you are and where you're coming from, and I don't know that you would do that to someone or you would want that done.
I would let somebody else do it. I would have the right
What I'm
person.
saying is that I don't know that if it came to fruition, if you would be able to execute on that, where there are other people who that could fuel their fire and get them more excitable and take that off rails. And although you don't want to incite the crazies with commentary like that, it can incite the crazies. And then unfortunately, that mob mentality can start to gain traction, especially if you're someone, which you are, who is an esteemed human being who people listen to. You have a lot of followers on Instagram. You have a good voice, and people will be like, "Whoa, yeah, Farley Boyle believes that. Maybe I should believe that too." But maybe they don't have the wherewithal to take pause before they actually execute on some of these ideas.
That makes sense. I look at it as a parent of a daughter, constantly reading these hideous stories. And this is where, as a Christian, I understand to turn the other cheek is something that has always been requested of us, to be the bigger person, not to retaliate and take things to the next level. But there's certain stories that I truly agree with. Another story that came to light in 1981, a 31-year-old mother, her name was Marianne Bachmeier. This is a very famous case that happened in Germany. Shot and killed Klaus Grabowski, 35-year-old murderer of her 7-year-old daughter, Anna. Not only did he kidnap and rape and kill her, the testimonies made it so real for her. The mother having to sit there and listen, and none of this is bringing her child back. And now she's learning all the details that led right up to the point of her death. I truly believe that she is a hero on some level because she showed up in the courtroom and it was premeditated because she brought a gun and she knew what she was going to do. She blasted him away. And was it right? You can't take a life for a life in our country. You can get a death sentence. You can be executed in 27 states. But in that moment, you almost wish that the jury could recognize her point of view and understand why she was so motivated to do something like that after going through the hideousness of hearing all the details that led up to the demise of her baby.
I can't even imagine, nor do I ever want to have to try to get into that brain of what devastating, destructive, horrific. There aren't enough words what this poor woman went through. The issue we have in modern society of eye for an eye and allowing people to take the vendetta into their own hands is
Scary.
We continue to have a self-policing state, and then we break down our laws and judicial system. We break down innocent until proven guilty, and then if you start to blur the lines on things, then everything begins to fall apart.
Well, the case caused nationwide debate on vigilante justice. Yeah. So in 1983, she was convicted of manslaughter and unlawful possession of a firearm and was serving 3 years of a 6-year sentence, but died of pancreatic cancer.
I think to that point, what ends up happening where there are extenuating circumstances upon someone taking some kind of vengeance, there are mitigating circumstances where a jury may throw a felony crime at them or need them to be prosecuted, but not to the fullest extent of the law, right? Maybe they only get 10 years on a sentence that had there not been background story, they may have gotten life imprisonment. Right. I think that in this country, even though sometimes I know you feel that an eye for an eye is warranted, I think as soon as we start to do that, it makes it complicated. The eye for an eye came from 1750 BCE, and it's called the Code of Hammurabi, Hammurabi. And it meant back during this time period, if I hurt somebody, then I would go kill your family. It was meant to really de-escalate things and say, I'm only going to remedy things in an equal way. And initially that was a really good concept to de-escalate. If somebody got injured, then I just go kill that whole clan. That's not equitable and that's not fair, but that's what would happen. People would decide that's not okay. You hurt my child and now you're dead.
Which is the reason we need laws.
Correct.
And I understand it. It's just in certain instances, like Brian Kohlberger, the Idaho murderer. If I was one of those parents, I would have such a hard time. Him rotting away in a jail cell, to me, isn't justice. I feel like in our country, if you are a hideous human being and you're going to do something atrocious, that should be your purgatory. If you are that type of a scumbag, and if you knew that the repercussions, if you got caught, was that the same situation was going to happen to you, back in the day when they would cut a thief's fingers off, I guarantee they thought more about stealing than they do now.
That still happens in places in the world, unfortunately. And
I don't know if it's unfortunately, I think in some places.
Well, what if you were stealing because you had no food, on your table and were poor and you were stealing,
I would take
you were stealing from somebody, but you don't have that opportunity because your hand just got cut off.
Well, you don't get your hand cut off until there's a review.
There's no review in these countries. You're caught stealing. There's no judicial process. It's I saw you steal. Yeah. I don't care what the back story is. I don't care that you're poor and you have no money and you're trying to feed your family. The Robin Hood idea where I'm stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, that's problematic. And I think, again, that's where this gets a little dodgy.
I would be humane in our country. Right. I feel like if we had rules that showed an eye for an eye is going to happen if you are responsible for a hideous crime, perhaps people would think twice. If that person was cut up into 56,000 pieces and put in a box, that's what he did. Yeah. Well, now you are going to get cut up into 56,000 pieces and put into a box. I would think more.
I think that the person who's cutting somebody up into 56,000 pieces has a mental illness and they're not thinking of what is going to happen after they cut somebody up.
like a firing squad idea. I like an execution. If you are on that level, if you have done something absolutely hideous, why is Brian Kohlberger still alive? How long is this going to get drug out? That's the other problem with all the states not being on the same page. Sure. If I wanted to be a psychotic pedophile or a murderer, maybe I'd pick the state that had the least amount of ramifications legally, so I could spend my life behind bars if I got caught and let all of us taxpayers pay for it.
I hope and pray that people that are doing these things don't even have the wherewithal. And that's the other nuance of this topic that can't be discussed and understood enough, especially now that mental health has become an acceptable, as it should be, forefront of what we talk about.
Or an excuse.
Is like, to what level do you have to prove insanity? I wasn't clear-headed or clear-minded, and I'm insane.
It's blurred lines.
Very blurred.
I strongly believe in the death penalty. I genuinely do. I think it would make people more hesitant. They might think before they pull the trigger or break into your house, like a home invasion. I don't know that our legal system puts the fear of God in the people that are doing these things, because people get out like Mondami right now. You can go do something crazy to somebody and you get put in jail for 5 hours and then you're released. There's a lot of that happening right now. I'm not getting spanked. I'm not scared. I'm going to go back out and do the same offense. We see all these repeat offenders. Okay, so they're mentally ill or they're drug addicts or something, but at some point they're not benefiting mankind. And I believe pretty strongly in that direction.
I understand where you feel that way, and I understand how it can feel that there's so much going on, but your algorithmic feed, we need to change, because it used to be all happiness and all these stories that I was like, I love that story.
Until my daughter's roommate was accosted in a subway last week with a massive knife by a deranged Mexican who wanted to kill her and stared her down. She saw hatred. He was going to do something to her. She felt it with every ounce of her body. This is at 1:30 in the afternoon in the middle of the day as she's going from one place for work to another. And this guy focused on her. She was sitting down on the subway and he blocked her so that she could not get out. And then he traumatized her with this big knife where you hold the railings. He was like dragging it across the metal and showing her what this knife was capable of. And thankfully, he decided that he was going to put the knife back in his pocket and take his jacket off so he could really get to business. And he got tangled up in his jacket when he was taking his arms out of it. And that's when the subway came to a stop and she was able to push him out of the way and run out the door. And this is the third story. The week before that, one of my daughter's best friend's boyfriends, big strapping athletic guy, got sucker punched right in his temple and his eye socket as he was leaving the subway and going through one of those roundhouses. It was a very large black man. He ran to the top of the stairs because he didn't know if he was going to be behind him with a knife. And thankfully, he saw two police officers and they were able to arrest him. But I guarantee you he's back out on the streets. And 3 weeks before that, another friend's roommate was coming off of the subway. She was standing on the platform. She's a nursing student. Somebody laid her out, punched her as hard as they could in the face. She fell backwards, lost consciousness. No one helped her. Terrible. When she came to, everybody was just hustling, bustling by, and she needed 14 stitches in her face. It's just the lawlessness. People don't have fear. We need repercussions. We need people to get scared again. It should be scary.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about the surveillance state. Having been in Japan, the amount of calm and the law abiding, it's one of the safest places. Tokyo is one of the safest cities.
So it's capable of happening.
It is capable. It has to do a lot with societal norms and what's acceptable, and, you know, staying in your own lane and being a part of a system. We are the melting pot of countries where we allow a lot of diversity. And because we have a lot of diversity, there is a lot of inequity. And when there's inequity, we have a lot of issues and a lot of mental illness for a lot of reasons. You can blame social media, you can blame the pandemic, You
You
can
can blame
blame.
the Sackler family.
I want my kids and my friends and my family to feel great going into a new place and exploring like I always did. But I have to be honest, Far, I never liked the subway. I don't like going underground. I do think it creates an environment like, you know how weird people are when you get on an elevator, enclosed spaces. I feel like the fear factor comes up
But
in
when you live in New
people.
York City,
Oh, I'm not saying it's
I know, but it's very expensive to go north to west to east to south in an Uber, a taxi cab.
Yep.
And if you have to be somewhere, the most time
The
efficient
best way to go.
travel is the subway. So, am I a huge fan of my daughter using it? I used it and loved it and never felt afraid when I was on it.
You also didn't have social media, which I think feeds a lot. And I'm not discounting any of the stories or of the real fear.
It's the
or
information
real,
society.
Too much. We also know too much. You and
You
I,
see too much.
there were probably, I won't say a million, but there were probably incidences.
I was more concerned about getting flashed, having some weirdo expose himself.
That became a big thing. And we heard about
Yes.
that when we were kids.
Right.
Now we hear about
And it happens to
everything.
me.
And your feed is now feeding or
Of
talking
my
about
fear.
over your
It's
fear.
feeding my fears.
Yes. And we all agree that it's listening to us 24/7.
Well, I think my fears come from a normal place. I was accosted as a child on 2 different occasions, and it was like the movie Sliding Doors. Thankfully, what could have happened didn't. I was spared, and I have a very realistic feel for stranger danger and creeps and sex crimes. And I am very sensitive to those types of crimes and sensitive to the fact that I have 3 daughters.
Of course.
And I'm worried about the fact that one lives in New York City and one lives in Australia and one's in college in a town that has a sex trafficking crime rate.
Yeah.
I just wish that we had some bigger repercussions. People would think more, because I feel like our legal system, I mean, if O.J. Simpson can get away with killing Nicole because of money, power, and clout,
Glove didn't fit. We got to quit.
It's just nuts.
But the burden of proof, I think OJ or any of these people that get off that are guilty should. We talked about God and we talked about the greater power of eye for an eye and turning the other cheek and forgiveness. I do feel that if you don't get your ramifications here on earth, and I don't believe that there's this power that's going to punish you, but I do think you're going to have to hold your actions accountable someplace else. And there is a better lane for some of us than others. And throughout my life, we've had this debate. Like, why are you a good person? Why do you follow the rules? Is it a fear of God? And my fear has never been because of the law or God or anything else. It just feels like the right thing to do. Right. I do the right thing most of the time. Knock on wood, I hope.
As do I.
Even though I feel the way you do, like this person should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. They should be stoned like they do in places.
I don't mind that.
There should be some social justice that happens.
Think about it. In the middle of a town and your whole family has to watch. You know, if that came back to the present day, I think it could work.
Well, unfortunately, I agree with you, but our current system is more evidenced on the people that have money and power.
True.
Get off. There are people they know did dastardly, horrible, terrible crimes.
Yes.
And they cannot get them prosecuted because
it's a
they have the
domino
best,
effect.
They have the best attorney.
They're connected to 9,000 other people.
Correct.
That have also done bad things, but they're powerful.
Correct. And then you have other people that have been prosecuted and they're acquitted later in life and they've served a whole life sentence. And it turns out that they did not commit the crime. That's the other part. There's a huge inequity in prosecution based on affluence or non-affluence, poverty. And there's also the deviation in states.
Damn Eve for eating that apple.
Yeah.
She really screwed us up.
It's not her fault. She was hungry.
I look at people that have suffered the most unimaginable loss of a child taken from them by a killer, and they forgive them. When they're capable of that type of forgiveness, I am an evolved person and I am a Christian and I believe in God. I don't know how you come to grips with being able to look the person in the eyes that stole one of your loved ones and to be a good enough person to overcome and forgive them.
Well,
And
that person is gritty. That person
that is grit.
has grit and a moral compass, and they know that you get the energy you receive and you get the energy you feed, right? So I don't want to be consumed by this tragedy, and I don't want the tragedy to define me. Or if it does define me, and you had challenges that you suffered with Chase almost drowning, and there are people that have lost their children in ways that are atrocious, and they've created a foundation or a movement that educates and raises money and does incredible things for people
filling a void
to help them through this challenge.
I have a lot of work to do to be that person, because I don't even know how you get there. I'll have to start trying to figure that out.
Well, and I think that being accountable for your actions, regardless of what they are on both sides, would be a great place for all of us to start, right? We want to make sure that we show up if there's somebody in need. We want to make sure that we understand that not everybody has been given what we've been given. We want to help try and move the needle in a way that creates a world we envision.
The way we talk to people has to change. That is a big debate. Jen has been wanting to cover that topic. The way we communicate with one another, reading between the lines, tones of text, just the way you speak to somebody has become so terrible.
Yeah. And I think we are going to cover this next week. We've shortened and abbreviated so many things.
We're desensitized to a lot too.
We should take a little bit more time and intentionality in our life, and take a pause and turn the other cheek when we've been wronged, and be really angry and be
Takes
okay
a big
with
person,
it, but try and channel
not in a small argument.
No,
it takes a big person to turn the other cheek, or not be compelled to seek revenge when somebody you love has been hurt or taken from you or compromised on any level,
and not let that situation define the rest of your life, because you don't want to have something bad become who you are, because you're good.
You know what? We're going to highlight somebody that's good, because we're going to shift the energy right now to our Got Grit Award winner of the week. Sad story. Got our Got Grit Award winner where he is today.
This, unfortunately, is the backdrop of yet another school shooting, because our schools are becoming like prisons and holding our children instead of criminals. They are Fort Knox, and yet these things still happen. So we want to highlight a positive story out of this.
Yes.
This Oklahoma principal was recently crowned prom king. Kirk Moore of Paulus Valley High School suffered a shot to his leg after a gunman attacked him entering the lobby on April 7th. He wrestled this ex-student to the ground, laid on top of him until authorities could arrive. The assailant told police that he wanted a Columbine-like assault on the school and also kill Principal Moore. The students were so moved, and they decided that he was going to be prom king for this graduating class. And he showed up happy and dancing around, and the video is beautiful. The kids are crying. He is crying. It's just a testament to the fact that not all heroes wear capes.
What a great award to make him the prom king.
I mean, it can make me cry.
It's fantastic. And I'm so happy it had a happy ending, because we have too many of these stories and we need more happy endings.
Yes, we do. And we're going to have a happy ending with our song of the week.
The lyrics ripped through me when I heard them the first time, because they're so beautiful and passionate. And the person was able to put it into words like this. I'm jealous of the rain that falls upon your skin. It's closer than my hands have been. I'm jealous of the rain. I'm jealous of the wind that ripples through your clothes. It's closer than your shadow. I'm jealous of the wind.
It's jealous.
It's called Jealous. And it's by Labrinth.
Okay.
When you hear it and you think about the wind being closer to you than he's been.
Very intimate.
And it's beautiful.
But jealousy is intimate.
And jealousy is also the worst sin.
One of.
Look at what it causes everybody to do. Terrible things. But in this case, he wrote it down, and it's a beautiful way to deal with his jealousy.
Yeah. And you get to acknowledge that you're jealous of the wind, and you cannot be the wind. So it's okay.
I'm jealous of the rain that falls upon your skin. It's just beautiful.
Can't wait to listen to the song, because I cannot come up with the way it sounds, which
so,
again is why I love this segment.
Very true.
I probably didn't hear those words.
So don't be jealous, and let's be happy and try to concentrate on all good things after this podcast.
So be kind, be real, be authentic. Thank you for showing up each week. We appreciate you.
Turn the other cheek. It's gritty.
Bye. Peace out.